They took her and put her in a small room and they found out it was heroin. They don't give blankets, they put lights on you. Normally you think a prison is a prison. It was a second home. Knowing the circumstances of me born in prison, I felt naked when someone knew the truth. My mother, Vanessa Goosen, spent 16 and a half years in a Thai prison. She was set up as a drug mule, and today she is a motivational speaker. She encourages people internationally and just has a heart to help people overcome their challenges. I was born in October. She was arrested in April. In my knowledge, my mother Vanessa was arrested in Thailand. She and my biological father, they had a clothing store in Carlton Center at the time, and she was also a finalist in Miss South Africa. So they decided and she went abroad to go and shopping for some materials. And when she arrived there, she went shopping and there was a guy that came to the store and he encouraged them to actually go to Thailand because he wore really good materials. When she was there, he called her and asked her to bring engineering books from his brother. So she's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And on her way back, she was pregnant with me at a time, probably around 6 months. You know, like the detectives that you walk through, they checked her books and she had magazines with her and these books. And the officer put a pocket knife in the spine of the book and powder came out. They took her and put her in a small room and they found out it was heroin. She gave birth to me in a hospital in Thailand and 16 students experimented on her to deliver me. She speaks about, how hard that was. She had no family around her. She only had these 16 students and the doctor that was guiding them. Because it was a low-class hospital, they don't give blankets, they put lights on you. And also she had to give birth laying flat, so they don't give a pillow. She gave birth and they traveled her back to the prison, and she explains that it was at the back of a bakkie, like flat, and they just brought me and just swept me through her face, and that was the first time she saw me. She was then located to the mother's room, and the mother's room where she mentioned there were a few mothers and kids and was super hot. She raised me in that room. She had to work in prison. There were few inmates that took care of me while she would work, and she told me they all loved me. She told me they spoiled me, and she said I was like so cheeky to the guards because of course the inmates were family. They were all I knew, but she made sure that I am careful. She said don't take anything from people, come and show me first. I was so cheeky. I was telling the guards to do A, B and C. She said that I brought a lot of hope and joy to those in prison. According to the prison, I had to leave on my 3rd birthday. So on my 3rd birthday, her best friend Melanie Holmes and husband Hilton Holmes, which is my father, they decided to take me and foster me in South Africa. So they picked me up that day, and once they took me from the prison, we went to Mr. and Mrs. Holmes. So they were missionaries, so they took care of us in Thailand, and they had a birthday party for me. The most amazing thing when I went back to Thailand, when I asked Mrs. Holmes, how was I when I had to leave my mother Vanessa in prison and when I came to you? She said I was crying so much, and she said like at the point they did not know what to do. She said it was such a sad and heartbreaking day, but they tried with balloons and to have fun, and I have pictures of those. It was a bittersweet day because of course I had the opportunity to live a normal life, but it was also sad because I got ripped away from what I knew was home, was my life. I'm sure it was not only sad for my mother Vanessa, but for the other inmates that loved me. Obviously it wasn't easy. I spoke fluent Thai, food culture. Growing up, I knew where my mother Vanessa was. Melanie Hilton did not keep it from me. I think it was at the age of 5 or 6, I went back to Thailand to visit her. Normally you think a prison is a prison, but for me it was a second home. Growing up in the Holmes family, and they love me so much. They always treated me like I was their child. When I left the prison, how can a 3-year-old understand that you're actually leaving forever? Maybe my 3-year-old brain just thought you're going out for the day. Then you get on a plane, you never see your mother that you saw for 3 years of your life. So with that, they did take me to a child psychologist. me in the little body, I always felt so much older than I actually was. The environment was good. My parents were great. But internally, if you look at that situation, how can a child trust or be close to somebody that they love because of the fear of them having to leave? I was afraid of being close to people because I was afraid of that hurt and that pain that I will experience again. At no point in time in my life or growing up did my parents sit me down and say, this is what happened. But what I do remember, I think maybe I was around 11, 12, where I asked my mother, Melanie, what exactly happened? Why is my mother Vanessa in prison? She explained to me briefly, but of course at that age you can't fully comprehend. So she left a lot of details out, and she told me about my biological father. She explained to me what had happened, and then it was the first time she showed me a picture of my biological father because I didn't know how he looked like. It made sense. I was like, oh, that's why I'm dark-skinned. Oh, that's why that's why my nose is like that. The details about my mother Vanessa's imprisonment, it wasn't weird or strange. Because I think at the end of the day, she was set up. So she's in prison for something she didn't do. That for me was like, wow. Knowing the circumstances of me born in prison, mostly when I meet people, I would say, oh no, my mother's a model. She's traveling the world. She's in Thailand on business. And my biological father, he died. I didn't tell the truth. I felt naked when someone knew the truth. So I had to perhaps have a friend that I partially trusted and thought they really cared about me, and I would tell them. I struggled to connect with people because I always felt I was older and they were so much younger, and I couldn't just make normal conversations. I wanted deep conversations. Unfortunately, I was a bully. You won't think, I mean, look at this face. I was in a Catholic school, so I was in the principal's office all the time. I was then sent to anger management. Did not help. I would be in my corner, but I would break people down with my words. There was a teacher who understood, so she brought me a Barbie doll, and I sat in the office at break time. She saw me. She saw what was happening internally, and she sent me for spiritual dancing. Spiritual dancing helped so much. You know, she said you can express yourself, you know, through dance. Because she believed in me, she took the time out to spend time with me. I got better. When I started high school, grade 8, I was in the C class because they will rank you based on your school marks, like A, B, and C. If you get below a specific amount, you have to leave the school. That's when I got my first tattoo. I went for piercings, drinking alcohol, and then that's when I also started smoking weed, dating as well. But at that time I did not know I had anxiety or depression, and I would many times cry myself to sleep and then just wake up, put up a brave face. In high school, I was the one being bullied, and in grade 10, that's where my mother Vanessa got released. Then it was also where my mother Melanie passed away. So it was a very, very tough year. Losing my mother Melanie was the most painful experience that I've ever had. On the news of my mother Vanessa being released from prison, it was like, wow, I can't have both. A month later, my biological father rocked up and said he's my father in the same year. And on top of that, the press, they were threatening me because they wanted me to release my mother Vanessa's release date. I didn't have a really great time with journalists, and I was going through a lot. When my mother was then released, it was broadcast everywhere. So there goes everyone I told that story to. When I went back to school, so there was a bunch of girls that were mean, and what they done was they printed out the article, the story, and they sent it around the whole school. And at that time, I was already going through a lot was happening. When I got home, that was another suicidal attempt. I remember someone at the gate. So I went out, and at this time it was just myself and the helper, and my dad was at work. So I went to the gate, and I knew the one guy that was with my biological father. And I was like, oh, hey. I opened the gate, and this man just hugged me so weird. I was like, oh, the stranger. So I left it, I kept quiet, and I had to sit. And then the helper called me inside. She's like, Felicia, that man looks exactly like you. Is that your father? I'm like, no, my father's dead. You know, it's not him. This man, his name was Solly, and he asked me, do you know who this man is? Who is he? And then my biological says, I'm your father. I looked at him like, I sat in the same chair until my father Hilton came back from work and I told him what happened. And he paces, he was going back and forth, going back and forth. And every time he comes back, he's a bit more upset. The days leading to meeting my mother Vanessa at the airport was, wow, I was anxious. And I overthink naturally. So it was just overthinking. I wasn't sleeping. I was in disbelief. I said, I will only believe it when I see her in front of me. Because for many years, she promised that she will be home every year. But I guess that was hope. But I took it as disappointment. Because every year I would wait. Why would this year be different? And we went to the airport and they told the journalist a different date and only chose, I think it was ETV at that time, the right time. So there was a lot of filming and I was sweating. And that was the first time I met my mother Vanessa's other family and her mother. The relationship with my mother Vanessa and my father Hilton, they knew each other years ago. So they like siblings, they're like brother and sister. So it was very natural. She lived with us until I obviously moved to university. Visiting Thailand while growing up, it was like a normal routine. It takes me a while to get comfortable with somebody. So it will take me like most of the week, like the entire week actually. And then the second week, I'll start getting comfortable and then it's time to leave again. Close to the time I have to leave, then feel like I have to be strong for her. But it's still going back to when I was 3, when I had to leave and I felt I needed to be strong for her. So it was actually the same feeling every single time. I felt guilty. And of course, I loved the shopping when I was there. They always gave me spending money and I had a list to buy everyone what they need. It was fun. When it truly hit me that this is me was after I wrote the book. That was when I fully, for the first time, understood, wow. Because sometimes you live a life that you're so used to, you don't realize that there was something wrong with it. So some of the things I was angry about with my mother, Vanessa, is when I was 3, leaving prison. And I had no idea that I was angry about that until she returned. I was angry that at the age of 3, she promised me she'll come home soon. Growing up, my legs would give in or it would like constantly pain. But that's how, if you don't speak, it becomes somatic. So it came out of my legs. It would be so painful. It felt like someone was like stabbing me constantly. And that pain would last for a while, then it would go numb. And I maybe can't walk that well, I have to wait a bit. Now, with my legs, I know when it starts, it's not as bad as it used to be. Like it doesn't go numb. I think for me now, because I understand it, I healed a lot. So I will know when I'm worried, is when my legs start tingling. I need to maybe just sit down, reflect, see what's happening in my life, and maybe see what's making me feel overwhelmed or worried. The coping mechanisms I used, I self-harmed myself. So I had like this toolkit of different objects. So depending on how I felt and what I was going through, I would use it. I would pick my hair just to experience pain. My mental health growing up, I didn't really pick it up. My mother Vanessa picked it up. She then took me to a psychologist. I was then diagnosed with major depressive disorder and anxiety disorder, and I was put on medication. I had mental breakdowns in between. So it was a really tough journey with my mental health, you know, medication. I didn't have a lot of education till I got to university when I studied it. Then I could take control of it and understand it better. Now my mental health is, I don't struggle with depression. Anxiety is something I still struggle with, but I've learned to understand it. I make sure 2 days a week I'm doing nothing. I make sure I'm sleeping properly. I make sure that I surround myself with people who build me. I can't get angry. So I've learned how to regulate my emotions, how to reflect, how to look at life differently. You know, I focus on the things I can change and can control and let go of the things I cannot change and cannot control. So I had to understand and get to know myself better and understand those around me. Joy is something that I now have. Happiness is what I have now. As I said, I didn't believe that I deserved it, but I do. I didn't believe that I was worthy, and I am. I believe that I was a mistake, and I'm not. I embrace my story and I embrace who I am internally and externally. The way I look, I also hated it. So I had to learn how to love my hair, how to love my skin color. The visits I made to Thailand, when I got to Thailand, I was like, Felicia, what are you doing here? Because there's something called exposure therapy. So I wanted to provoke some memories that I just was blocked. So it did. It provoked it. It was actually the memories of visiting the prison. I went back to see Mrs. Holmes and Mr. Holmes. So many people loved me. I was actually so fortunate. When I was a kid, I had so many mothers. My mother, Vanessa, our relationship wasn't easy because I was angry with her. She was getting to know herself. She had to heal. I mean, being incarcerated for so long. I was going through my own things. Time along with effort heal. So for many years, she went on her journey and I went on mine. I think it was probably 3 years ago where we started to get to know each other much better because now we can both see clearer. You know, you just come to the place where you understand the dynamics of the situation, and we had to find another way to have a relationship and not the mother and daughter relationship that we put pressure on each other. I believe that gravitate me towards psychology. I wanted to be a voice for the voiceless because growing up I was screaming inside but no one could see. Of course they couldn't see because I was pretending like everything is okay. You know, there's a lot that I didn't have to go through. I believe that before permanent damage, young people deserve a life. So much is stolen from us as kids. I believe it's my calling to help bring healing and also embrace self. So many times we hate this about ourselves, we hate that, and we don't realize that we have to live with it every single day. So why not just love it? I am the founder and CEO of FG Wellness. So we are a digital youth wellness and mental health center, and also the director of FG Wellness Life Foundation, where we impact communities, bring mental health awareness. And I'm an author as well, and a life coach and an advocate. So I advocate for youth mental health and youth inclusion.